Hello, hello, and welcome to Endeavor BS Live at 5, where the BS stands for Brewing and Spirits. And as always, there is no other possible way to interpret that particular combination of letters. Today, we have our special guest, Eric.
Hi, Scott and Carrie.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Scott, as always, and Carrie, our
Hi.
lovely GM here. We are drinking some cucumber lime infused Garden Gosa, which is fantastic. And Eric is fresh off a small stint on the Appalachian Trail. We're going to be calling in with one of the guys who he went with. Eric and I have done some hiking together, as well as Craig, who's going to be joining us via the telephony technologies, which is super fun.
It's like a real call-in show.
I know, right? So we'll be talking the Appalachian Trail. We'll be talking beer, hanging out, BSing, brewing and spiritsing. Sorry. And going from there. Again, if you like our channel, please subscribe. Please add us and click that little bell so you get notifications when we go live. All is good. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is great. Long-time listener, first-time caller, I guess.
There you go. First time participation. Go ahead, pour yourself a beer.
All right.
Carrie, what did you infuse over here, by the way?
Twist.
Oh,
Twist.
So this, mine. So this beer and this beer, both of them are Gozas. And mine, I put raspberry, strawberry, blueberry, and cucumber in mine.
Yeah.
The one we're drinking out of the pitcher has cucumber and lime.
Yeah, so Eric, if you just turn it so the notch lines up over the notch, then you can just pour it straight out.
Yeah.
Oh, nacho.
That's
over the
how
notch.
that's how technology
It's like
works.
where the triangle meets the triangle.
I just got off the mountain. Your new world frightens and confuses me.
I just
What are
want
these
to
pictures?
I just want to get out of my BMW and run off into the hills or something. Unfrozen caveman hiker. That's
Well-
amazing. That's quite a reference right there.
Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah.
who doesn't
Awesome.
appreciate a good unfrozen caveman
Absolutely.
lawyer?
Phil
but-
Hartman, man. So let's briefly talk about the Gosa, right? Because I mean, we're a brew distillery. We take our beer, we take our spirits very seriously. I often get on a soapbox about the Gosas specifically. So first of all, a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it. It should be pronounced Gosa. That's the closest way for an American to pronounce that word if you're not German. It's a specific German-style beer from Leipzig, Germany, that one brewery started. There's a lot of beers in the market that are called Gosas that shouldn't be. They're often brewed with fruit. Remember, it is illegal in Germany to brew with fruit. So we've added fruit after the fact. That's what they do in Germany, but you cannot brew with fruit in Germany. So if you have fruit in a Gosa, as it's brewed, it can't be a Gosa.
Verboten.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be super sour. It should be light and tart like a lemonade, low ABV, refreshing on a hot day. That's what a Gosa should be.
Well, I think you've reached it here. Shall we try?
Yes, go for it. Cheers.
Okay. So this is, you said it's cucumber and
Cucumber and lime.
and lime.
cucumber and lime. Cheers. Ooh, that's nice.
It's good, right?
A lot more cucumber, but that is refreshing.
Yeah.
You might have a little bit more of that. Let there be light.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we look so much better now.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is,
I didn't even notice that.
I come up. I mean, I feel like when we first started talking, because I've seen you guys enough as a regular here at the brewery. This is my go-to beer when I come up here for watching a footy match and need something just nice and light. And every time I have that, I'm always reminded. I kind of forget that it's on the menu. Maybe because it's spelled funny, as Scott said. So I don't really do it. But every time it's good. But man, it's perfectly infused with that cucumber because it has such a cooling effect to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really refreshing.
And that lime adds that kind of lime zest to it as well. You know, it's a really nice summer drink. Yeah, we've been experimenting with these infusion pitchers here. We can pack them with a lot of different fruits and pour the beer around them. So
There should be instructions about how to turn that thing. That's
yeah,
slightly complicated.
You know, it's the sort of deal where for, I would say 80, 90% of the population would look at it and just automatically figure out how a pitcher works.
Well, I have a big microphone in front of me.
You know, there's 10% of people or so, Eric, who might just not get it immediately. So that's cool. That's cool.
There's 3 categories of people. Turns out 2.
That's awesome. Eric and I are obviously friends, so we have a bit of a
we can explain
some banter and all that, which is perfectly acceptable. So tell us first of all your AT hike, what you've been doing for the last couple of years, and your general overview experience of it.
Oh, okay. So I think like a lot of Americans growing up learned about the Appalachian Trail, and I can remember vaguely. I think when I was in Cub Scout saying, you hear about Philmont, right? You go out for a month in New Mexico, but it's like, oh, the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, I went to Philmont in like 92, I think. Or
okay.
That was, yeah.
So, Craig went to Philmont, right?
Yeah, we talked about that a few times on the trail.
So, when you're a little kid and you're hiking, you hear about Philmont if you're a Cub Scout or Boy Scout, but then you're also talking, you hear about this Appalachian Trail, and it's really long, and it takes months to finish. So I think it was always kind of in front of me, and then fast forward a few years ago, I was visiting some friends in Washington, D.C. It was wintertime. It was a Sunday, and I was driving back, and I saw the sign for Harper's Ferry, and I'm like, Appalachian Trail headquarters. Maybe I should go check that out. It was just like this perfectly cold blue day, and I was like, parked the car, and I walked around a couple miles, both sides, walked into Maryland, walked into West Virginia. I was like, that's cool, 3 states. And then went and just chatted with a guy that was volunteering at the headquarters and gave me a bunch of information, and then I posted some photos on Facebook, and immediately Craig, who I grew up with in my hometown, messaged and said we should do that one day, and I was like, absolutely, tell me when we can, maybe do a weekend or something. And then sure enough, he when the company that he works for here in Columbus, there's been a number of the guys in the executive board, but also employees as well every year that have been doing section hikes. And then it just so happened he was looking at the newsletter, and they said, hey, we're doing an Appalachian Trail hike this coming May. And Craig signed up and said, can I bring a friend? And the rest was history,
You got in on that.
I got in as an outsider. So, I earned my street cred or my trail cred.
That's cool. So, it's funny because we're going to be probably talking a lot about trail culture tonight. And I know Craig has some etiquette stories and some stuff when he calls in. Walk me through, because there's a lot of terminology that, for example, through hiking, section hiking, all this kind of stuff that people talk about frequently. And it's kind of like a no-brainer for us when you're into the trail world. I'm sure Carrie,
the words kind of give it away too.
They kind of give it away, It kind of is self-explanatory.
Section hike or through hikes.
Yeah, it starts becoming like acronyms as well too.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, AT, I think Appalachian Trail, right? The PCT, CDT, right? Those are the big ones.
Pacific Crest Trail and the Continental Divide Trail.
Right.
They're the big 3 or the Triple Crown.
The Triple Crown.
Exactly. And if you don't know, so the AT is the famous one. It's Atlanta to Maine. It's a little over 2,000 miles.
2,200 and change.
Exactly. Yeah. Pacific Crest Trail is Canada to Mexico, following Oregon, Washington, California. It's 2,600 miles, give or take.
Sounds right.
Continental Divide, which I've done a good chunk of on the Colorado section, is Canada to Mexico, over 3,000 miles, following the spine of the Rocky Mountains, the Continental Divide itself. And those are together known as the Triple Crown. They're the big 3 through hiker challenges.
And now 3 people have done all 3 in one calendar year, which still blows my mind.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading the youngest kid, some kid who's like 10, just finished the Triple Crown like last year on the CDT. He started as like 5-year-old, and I have a 4-year-old, so I have dreams for Fitz. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But.
Well, get him early. He could still break the record. There's still time for him to break that record.
They're really, I don't know.
Yeah, that opens up a whole can of worms about who's supposed to be on that trail. But it was invented right in early 1900s for people in industrial towns around the eastern United States to get out in nature. And there's thousands of miles of trails off this 2,200 mile strip that goes from Georgia to Maine. So obviously it's every 3 miles. On the trail, or every 3 days, I'd probably say, I don't know, every 5 or 10 miles, there's usually a gap.
So 3 miles, 3 days, do you just walk a mile a day? Is that kind of your pace out there?
That was bad. We cut that out.
Nice.
So actually, I think I might say there's three days you usually get to some sort of town.
Sure.
Along the 2,200 miles. So, a lot of those communities, mountain culture, being outdoors, and a supportive industry cluster for everything for hiking. Outfitters, hostels, hiking, kayaking, shuttle services, snacks, you name it, you can get it. So, I mean, it's just for that long, for that strip, it's just these tiny towns on the East Coast, much different than the West. And it makes it so accessible, but there's always this idea for, I think, most Americans, but, you know, you do see a lot of Europeans and other people from around the world on this trail to say, I'm going to try to do this whole thing, right? And it's still surprisingly, as popular it is now, it's only a few thousand people who start, and it's only hundreds of people who actually finish still, which is still mind-boggling.
In the same calendar year.
In the same calendar year.
Continuous through hike.
Right, right. So, yeah, the through hikers is the one they're the rock stars, right? They're the ones that are going to do it in one go. Things have changed quite a bit because of logistics of everybody starting. You know, traditionally you want to go from south to north. You call them no-bows, right? Northbound.
Not the Sobos.
Not the Sobos.
Or the hobos.
Or the hobos, yeah. There's lots of them. There's lots of oboes.
Not just an instrument.
Yeah. A nice instrument, by the way. Really underappreciated. So the big part now is February, March, people start in the south, try to get through the Smokies while there's still snow on the ground and basically get ahead of the bubble, right? We always talk about the bubble because pretty much everybody starts about the same time, but people are starting earlier and earlier, and everybody's going northbound just because of the weather, and you want to finish in Maine on Katahdin, Mount Katahdin.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of it is, well, there's seasonal logistics and when you start and weather patterns, and when you're taking 4 to 6 months to kind of do this trail.
Yeah.
But a lot of it too is the northern terminus is Mount Katahdin. It's this big mountain with views and rocks, and it's a climactic final experience.
Yeah.
But down at the
Springer
Gap,
it's covered with
trees.
You're just
like forest in Georgia.
There's a plaque.
There's a plaque. So it would be sort of anticlimactic to start at the top of a mountain.
Gotcha.
And finish at a plaque.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other way around. So a lot of it's emotional.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that end on the north end is pretty technical. Lots of stone, lots of mountain up there. Like Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine is pretty tough. So you're a seasoned hiker by the time you get up there.
You go through the 100-mile wilderness, pretty close to the end there, which is where you pretty much have 100 miles of no real easy resupplies. And so to be in good trail shape, it's kind of easier at the end, right? Than right at the beginning.
You're moving, yeah. The other way around, because, I mean, we can talk about it, but, day 3 on the trail northbound is Neal's Gap mountain crossings, and there's a big oak tree with hundreds and hundreds of pairs of hiking shoes for people who said I was going to hike the whole thing and quit on day 3, because, that's 3 is the magic number. You'd start looking around like this backpack's pretty heavy, and I don't know about this thing, and they just literally hang it up.
Wow.
At day 3 at Neal's Gap mountain crossings. So
best laid schemes of mice and men. Gang after tree.
I wish I'll have to share some photos. Maybe next time you bring some photos up, I have a picture of the hanging shoes in the tree because it was pretty fascinating to see.
Cool.
So northbound hikers, that's the big one. And then, but because it's so busy these days, there's something called flip-flopping now, where you either start somewhere, either midpoint at Harper's Ferry and hike south, and then finish there, and then go back to Harper's Ferry, and then go north, so your no-bow, or your no-bow, but maybe doing some sobo. You could also go to Katahdin, start first, which the hardcore ones do. Usually the season hikers will start north and go south, or go to Springer, head to Harper's Ferry, and then go up to Katahdin and go back down to Harper's Ferry.
Sure. So. And I imagine that kind of like you're walking south, you're largely isolated at that point, but it's kind of like winter is coming, where the bubble is coming. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a great southbound T-shirt. Is the bubble is coming?
Yeah.
The Game of Thrones reference and everything.
Yep, the bubble's coming.
The bubble is coming.
And we bumped into a bunch of people who were doing the flip flop because we were just ahead of the bubble in Central Virginia. There was the big trail days in Damascus, which is this party of thousands of hikers all in this, and Damascus is such a tiny little town. And they were saying as they came up, like, it's really fascinating to be going into the bubble as like trying to get out of it or in it. You know, you're actually just facing the bubble. So, yeah, it's a whole phenomenon on itself. The bubble, the trail bubble. What other? So yeah, we talked about flip flop, Nobo, Sobo. Yeah, so they, you know, the rock stars are the through hikers, but you bump into all types of people, weekenders, section hikers is what I guess I'm defined as.
You get some people who are kind of purists, you know, where they think that, you know, a through hike should be 1 point to 1 point.
Right.
And you don't break it up. And then you have other people that are like, well, no, you can start in one mil, do half of it. You can do, you know, as long as it's in one calendar year or one season.
Right.
So whatever. At the end of the day, it's kind of like hike your own hike.
Yep.
And that's a saying amongst a lot of people, is that kind of figure it out for yourself and what's important to you and defining your own terms. Again, I see it all as it's all cool. So figure out what works for you. And if you want to do it all in one good push, to me, that seems like the idyllic romantic version is that, you know, you just start on foot and you walk and you finish 6 months later or 4 months later or 8 months later, however long it takes you, 2,000 miles away.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's not really like that on the AT because there's a town every other mile. You know, you've got resupplies, you've got hotels, it's not like you're in the wilderness for 6 months.
It would be really interesting. We were saying it'd be really interesting to talk to the people who did this in the late 90s, before cell phones, before apps like Guthook. That is, you know, a quintessential. Almost every hiker now has this app called Guthook, which shows where you are on the trail,
where the water sources are, where the campgrounds are, where people are. You know,
shuttle numbers.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't need that much.
It's funny that you say that because I did over 500 miles on a Continental Divide Trail in the summer of 2002. So I just graduated from college before I did my student teaching. I had a cell phone, I had a flip phone, but I left it at home because I was like, there's no service out there. It's not going to do me any good. GPS existed, but there weren't maps on screen. So it was all map and compass. It was all printed out trail guidebooks. And I had my roommate drop me off past the border of New Mexico. And I walked back to Rocky Mountain National in Boulder, kind of where I was living, you know, and just navigating, following the trail. Nuts. Totally different than today. And, you know, I mean, the CDT, the Continental Divide Trail, has always been the least traveled of all three.
Why?
It's the most remote, and it's the most challenging. I mean, you're in the spine of the Rocky Mountains for the entire trip, you know. But at the time, I mean, I don't know, back in the day, like, you know, maybe a dozen people would attempt the Continental Divide Trail, and there were years where no one completed it at all. You know, and the AT would be, you know, a couple hundred people would attempt it, and maybe 100 people would finish it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, back in that era, you know, right around turn of the millennia, and now it's thousands of people attempt, and hundreds to thousand complete every year. You know? Yeah, it's just become its own thing.
Yeah, and there's definitely tales too of just people who, by their own admission, were not ready to take on a 2,200 mile. It's because it's just like, you know, being a runner and telling people, and someone says, I want to run a marathon. Well, how much have you run? Very little. I've run a 5K before. So, okay, well, you know, you should really try to see what a half marathon's like before you even think about doing a marathon. It's a great challenge. And obviously a marathon, training for a marathon takes it takes a month or two, and then you do it in a day. But, you know, when you have a 20, 30, and for many people, 40-pound backpack on your back going up and down through the Appalachian Mountains, it's a completely different experience than a marathon. But, you know, you see that, like I said, people quit in 3 days because most people, I don't think, feel very comfortable going out even for 2 nights with a backpack on their back and setting up camp.
Even one night, you know?
Yeah. Give me my air mattress, right? Like, no, you got to put everything on your back? It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think, you know, it's interesting because oftentimes distance running and backpacking are compared, but in some ways they're kind of polar opposites, you know, and even when you're talking about at the fitness level, you know, with backpacking and mountain climbing and things like that, you want to keep your body as mellow as possible to maximize those miles, you know, which is kind of the opposite of running strength. And you start talking about marathon distances, and even if you're an experienced runner and you run a marathon, to do a marathon the next day is almost unheard of. You have to be a super freak, right?
Yeah.
But most thru hikers, when they get in their groove, they're averaging marathon mileage walking every single day with a pack. They're averaging 20 some miles a day.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because you're just walking at a casual pace and your body is used to it. So you can walk those same distances. And that's why over time, walking is a lot more efficient than running is. You actually cover more distance quickly when time becomes a factor.
Well said. Yeah, I mean, they was that Chris McDougall, the Born to Run book.
Yeah.
But it's really Born to Walk.
Yeah,
It really
exactly,
is. I mean,
exactly.
it takes months to train to run 26 miles, but you can be doing 20 miles of walking a day within 2 to 3 weeks on the trail with a backpack. So it's impressive. I mean,
Absolutely.
it really is. It just shows what we're capable of.
Absolutely.
But those long days on the trail do add up, man. Your feet get mangled.
Yeah.
I mean, even a week on, us, the non-cool section hikers, we always, and there's a look, I think sometimes, and like I said, we don't have a through hiker with us or a completed hiker, but I have been told that the section hikers are the scourge because we always screw things up for them, right? Because we were known on this, and Craig can maybe say something about this, but we were being called the Horde. Because there was we had Horde, like the Blues Traveler Horde Festival, not with the dots, not an acronym, but yeah, because we had 9 people on this trip of mixed ages. I mean, we had someone in the middle 30s into their 70s. It's a great group. But when you go into a shelter area on these trails, and right, so about every 13 miles, there's a sanctioned shelter that's been built with campsites. Well, guess what? We planned it accordingly, so we got to camp just a little bit early before those through hikers did. And on a weekend too, people drive up and park their cars and go for a little 3-mile hike into these shelters, and we were already there. So we ruined some people's plans, and we heard about it from some people who heard it from other people who heard it from other people, because that's what happens on the trail. Little trail telephone.
Yeah. And there's some people, because the advantage of the AT is that you don't have to go far between resupplies. And
Right.
some people try to do it without tents or tarps or shelters of any kind. They just sleep in shelters.
Yeah.
And every couple of days, they just go into town, they get more food, they eat at the diner, and you keep kind of going. Whereas that is absolutely impossible on the Pacific Crest Trail or the Continental Divide Road. In kind of an inverse order there.
Yeah.
CDT, like there's hundreds of miles where you have to walk 15 miles that way to get to the closest town or hitchhike down or something like that. And so you really have to plan resupplies.
Wow.
And AT, it's just
You have
go.
a cell phone signal, you have a resupply, you have trees and you have water sources almost the entire way. So it is kind of like a Hilton of the trails, so to speak.
not the Hilton, but it'll do, which is an awesome motel in rural Kansas. Took a motorcycle trip out to Colorado.
Really?
Oh, it's
And
actually
is
a
this
hotel?
actually, there's this motel in the middle of rural Kansas. It's is it 36 or whatever the highway is that's north of 70 that goes straight shot to Denver from Columbus, basically. And on the side of the highway, it's literally called, it's not a Hilton, but it'll do motel. It's amazing.
Is there a
Look it up.
comma or is it just on top of each other?
It's a crazy sign. It's like Google search it. It's up there. It's kind of nuts. We're going to call Craig in right now, actually. So let me do our best to patch him in.
Chief trail etiquette specialist.
Okay.
We're going to call Craig in.
Hey, how's it going? You might want to turn down your background repeat there.
You there?
Yep. How's it going?
Good. You guys all hear me?
Yeah.
Sure can.
We can indeed. How's it going?
Hey guys, first time, long time.
Hey now.
Fantastic. Yeah, we were just talking about you. I think you were watching as well. You're one of our
Oh, yeah,
viewers there.
I'm tuned in. Then what's going on over there? Cheers.
Yeah, we're having some beers.
Cheers.
How
Yeah.
about you?
Virtual cheers.
Let me get mine open. I wish I was having a little bit of that Rosa.
Yeah, the Gosa with the cucumber line. Fantastic.
Yeah. I thought it was Lou the Toe.
Are you calling in from Grand Rapids?
We're up in GR.
Up in GR, good beer up there.
Yeah, that's funny. So
Ain't
My
bad.
hometown.
carry this with us is from Holland, Michigan, right?
Yeah.
Not right down the road.
Yep. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Grand Rapids growing up.
Home of the drag.
You're kind of breaking up on us there, Craig. Is that your?
Oh, no. Wow.
Is that your phone?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
better.
Just stop moving.
All right. Home of the Dragon's Milk in Holland.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of good beer in Michigan, from Holland to Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, like over east too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of good beer. Shame about the football, but
Craig likes
Beer's good.
Craig likes it up there, and
I'll
there's
take
some
good beer.
we know.
over
Yeah,
football.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
and,
we're like,
and a segue. There's some really nice hiking trails in Michigan as well up in northern
Absolutely.
Michigan.
We went up there about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
To a trail up there.
Manistee
River Trail. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a nice little loop out and back, and had some miserable weather. Bailed on the trail.
But we got back.
Already? We got to get you guys back up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was Halloween, and then remember we cut it short and got back to Grand Rapids and enjoyed a ton of beer.
Yeah. Well, you got to do that sometimes.
What was your friend's name that you met up there on that trip? I think you would have met him a few times, but Eric and Corey met him for the first time. The eccentric chap who came up to you in the bar and was trying to. What was that again? Like, what was his name? I'm sure he's going to be watching. So
We'll call him Wyatt.
okay.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, we first had dinner. We were having dinner at was it like a little Belgian farm?
brewery Vivant.
Yeah.
It's a brewery that's made out of, used to be in Grand Rapids, and they converted it into a brewery.
Yeah, as a church.
So,
yeah.
One of the staples up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were in the mess hall, or whatever you want to call it, dining hall, and yeah, beers will lead you to interesting friends.
Yeah, and I think what added to the mystique was it was Halloween, so people were actually dressed up in costume. And as we were talking to, I can't remember what story we were telling, and seriously, out of the periphery, we just look over, and there's someone who had just joined our dining group, and I stopped and looked over at him. He's like, "No, just keep going." So we just kind of kept going, and he was. And then started asking questions, like he was like, it was just
Like he was just one of your friends now.
yeah. It was like if someone sat down at the cafeteria table at high school, and you had no idea who this person was, and was just basically in on a good story, and was just like, yeah, just keep going, and then ask questions as soon as he got some stuff. So
Yeah.
So did you welcome him?
we
Oh,
welcomed.
we got to talking, all right.
We got to talking. I think we offered him a beer. And we can. And then he went on his merry way, and we finished up and went to another, a great hole in the wall kind of dive establishment, and just getting one more beer. And sure enough, he comes in,
Same
guy, and proceeds to shoot a rubber band at the bar manager. Like, a little rubber band gun on your finger.
Sure.
And it was good. It went across the room. It was one of those nice rubber bands. And she screamed, "Get the F out." And
She
They were
pretty
like, "We're
much
not
kicked
friends
his
with
ass
him."
out.
yeah, she gave him the keys to the street. Yeah, so.
I've had a
Fun.
few Chardonnays. What?
Yeah, he did. We all had a few Chardonnays. But yeah, it was some interesting folks. Yeah, and then it's life in Grand Rapids. It's some good hiking and good beers up there. So yeah, we definitely need to get up there again. And that was, Craig, was that the Jordan River loop that we did last year?
Yeah. Jordan think it's technically called the Jordan Valley Pathway that goes along the Jordan River. That's up in Gaylord, Michigan. Probably 2.5 hours north of Grand Rapids up in northern Michigan. So far, we've done Jordan Valley Pathway and Manistee River Trail or Loop, which is in the Manistee Forest. A couple nice, maybe about 20-mile loops. Just good little backpacking, good weekend backpacking trails.
Good weekend warrior, get your legs under you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The Jordan River was nice because it was sand. I mean, it's all sand up on that northwest part of Michigan, so it's easy on your feet. It's nice.
Nice to sleep in. Does that make it harder to walk in terms of pushing
It's not
forward,
that
or
it's not that
pretty
loose.
compacted?
It's very
Okay,
compact,
nice.
but it's soft enough where it's not walking on stone.
Oh, that's
It's
awesome.
There's another trail up here called Nordhaus Dunes, and that's actually right on Lake Michigan. And as you can expect, with dunes being in the name of it, it's pretty much all sand, and that's different. That does get that'll get the legs moving a little bit, walking through sand with a pack on.
Is that where they mine the spice? Like get out your worm hooks and get on top there, like.
Yeah, sure.
Reference.
Sure.
You guys excited for the Dune movie to come out? I mean, come on, like.
I have not read the Dune series.
All right.
My friend, you're talking to a smooth brain over here.
Smooth brain over here.
He will do a book on tape. So if you get him a book on tape or a book on MP3, you could maybe give Craig Dune. Maybe that would work.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's one of the. I think it's the best-selling sci-fi novel of all time.
Did you just make
Oh,
that
right,
up?
huh?
No, I'm pretty sure that's.
None of us have heard of it.
Dune.
Just
I've
kidding.
known of Dune. I've known of Dune.
And there was a film that was supposed to, I think, have come out, but it was like delayed from the pandemic. So there's like a big Hollywood
Who's in it?
film. It's Timothée Chalamet, and the cast is pretty spectacular, as well as the director. So look it up. It's Dune, D-U-N-E.
It's October 1st.
I tell you what.
They've released it, and it's this fall, but it was supposed to be, I think, the end of this last year.
Okay.
Originally.
I tell you what, I'll have Eric read it, and then on our next hike, he can give me the Cliff Note version of it.
Yeah.
So Corey, we've talked about this on the trail a few times. So Corey, our other friend who's been on a few trails, we've talked about Dune several times. So I figured you guys would pick up on that, but I guess not. Apparently,
I remember hearing you guys geeking out about Dune, but I think I tuned out and started looking at the trees.
Probably true.
No, and
I'm thinking you guys were probably about a half a mile ahead of me.
You're bringing up the rear back there.
Yep.
we already talked about hike your own hike, so
Hike your own hike.
Yeah.
And that might come along with trail etiquette as well.
You're our chief etiquette specialist, V. So we
That's
want
true.
Oh my goodness.
So you should tell us some stories. So you were down on the AT with Eric recently, and you should tell us a couple of stories, or at least whatever comes to mind of what you may have experienced. We also have a collective story of someone asking to borrow something from you at Selesky.
Well, yeah.
We should probably talk about it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, as far as etiquette goes on the AT, what jog my memory a little bit here, E. What are some situations that I've come across?
Well, I
mean,
maybe this will jog your memory, but right before you called in, we talked about how word was getting around that we were the horde. That there are some section hikers that were ruining other people's hiking plans.
Yeah. I mean, for anyone that's familiar with the AT, as you guys were saying, you hike all day, and then some spots there's shelters, and you basically don't want to stay in the shelter because of mice and whatever. You know, you got to sleep shoulder to shoulder with people sometimes.
Because of mice and men.
And mice and men, women.
Wait for it.
The rim shot. You got it.
I heard it. Is that our
Nerd
first
alert.
one today?
Did you just hear nerd alert?
Hold on. Wait for it. Nerd alert.
Did you record that?
Yeah, we recorded that especially for Cameron, our brewmaster, but it also definitely applies to me.
Well, I remember when Cameron was on, I heard it, but I could not maybe hear it so clearly because I didn't have headphones in. But
Sure.
I heard it, and I was like, that is Scott right there.
It's definitely me recording. Nerd alert. Custom sound effects.
I like it. So you got the shelters, and I personally would prefer not sleep in the shelter, but there's also limited camps on the shelter. Well, my campsite that is semi-flat to lay your tent or pitch your tent on, and most people prefer pitch their tent, so you got your own little shelter about other people, but there's limited spots. So a group like us that is rather large for hiking the AT, we tend to get into camp and take up all those spots. So whenever you're walking into camp, you kind of eye up everyone and you're like, all right, who's here? How many people are here? Do I have to move to the next, shelter or spot? How far away is it? Is there water? There's a few logistics that go into the decision-making process of whether you want to stay at where you were planning or move on. And some of it has to do with number of people already there. And like you were saying, yeah, we were considered, what do we have, E? We had
9.
We had 9 people with us.
Oh, wow.
9 people.
And that's a large group. That's a big group. And
Did I catch a niner in there?
Yeah.
We got a 9.
We weren't on a walkie-talkie either.
Yeah, and so a large group like us gets into camp, and we're section hiking. We'll get up early and start hiking, but we're off the trail early. And by early, I mean anywhere from 2 to 5 p.m. And there's people that are through hiking that they don't get in from anywhere from 5 to nighttime, So yeah, it's kind of, I don't know if that's an etiquette thing, but we're definitely spreads on the trail that, hey, there's a large group hiking through and they're going northbound, and then everyone else kind of rearranges their itinerary probably to avoid us, So it's interesting. I mean, hey, it's no fault of anyone's, we're all out there hiking, doing our thing. So there's no rule against how many are allowed to, hike together, but we're kind of an abnormally large group that enjoys hiking,
In some areas, there are rules about maximum group size and stuff like that.
Right.
Oh, is there?
Not on the AT, but like when you get to national parks and specific wilderness areas, they do have maximum group sizes, but
all right.
We were within.
Last year we were in a national park.
I don't think 9. Typically they're in that range, like 12 or something like that. They just don't want like huge Boy Scout troops of 30 people taking over areas.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the other it's not like we're locusts or cicadas, but we were. I mean, there's no real rule. I mean, there's. Amazing.
You got that too.
Wow. I mean, there's the thing is it's first come, first serve.
Yeah.
And there's no reservations really on the AT except for a couple places like the Smokies and I think up in like New Hampshire, New England. But otherwise, I mean, you can go in there, and we're still doing 10 or 12 miles a day. It's not like we do like 2 miles and quit. But we there's limited tent spots, and some of the camp shelters are amazing. I mean, they're just absolutely beautiful. There's a great view. There's a nice water source. And then, some of them are just kind of like off the trail. You got to walk down about a mile. It's ridiculous because it's got to be close to a water source. And the conditions aren't great, but there's that shelter that's, has food hanging out in it, and, the mice are in there, and you got, through hikers who haven't bathed in a while. And I mean, it's just if the weather was really bad, a shelter could come in handy. Sure. But otherwise, I mean, it's, Eastern United States and usually pretty decent weather. So you want to kind of get your own, and hammocks are becoming more and more popular because there are so many trees on the AT. You don't have to worry about, setting up a tent.
Yeah. Are there I'm not sure there's any real sections without trees for an extended period on the AT.
Not more than a quarter of a mile.
Yeah, definitely
I can
not
think
true
of.
on the CDT or PCT. I mean, there are large sections where hammocks wouldn't work. A lot of them it would, but
You could hammock the entire time on the Appalachian Trail.
yeah, kind of like a squirrel could probably get on a tree in Georgia and not get off the trees till Maine.
Yeah. So I think Craig and I are. I'm not to talk gear yet. We can talk gear, but I think we're both converting to hammock campers pretty quick on the AT, just because setting up that tent, taking it down, you know, we're men of leisure, so you know we need to make sure that we're having more leisure time as opposed to setting up tents and taking them down.
Yeah. So does that mean you're just like carrying a lot of hammock beers, like the Endeavor banana hammocks, with you the entire way?
Well, we'll have more. We'll have not having that tent in your bag. You'll have more space and you'll have less weight. So you could offset it by adding a couple banana hammock beers in there.
Interesting. And will you be hiking in banana hammocks, Craig?
That can be discussed.
Ooh. You know, not this year. You know, I'm recovering from a pandemic.
What material? What material are you using for your banana hammock?
Well, it's got to be Dyneema. A Dyneema banana hammock is got to be cutting edge.
Yeah, Cuban fiber.
Yeah. It's no longer Cuban fiber because it's been patented, so it's now Dyneema fiber.
Oh, Dyneema.
But it originally was Cuban fiber, correct? The guy that
I may just borrow my neighbor's cod piece, but
okay.
That's for another
Fig
day.
leaf, the fig leaf.
His neighbor really does have a cod piece.
Yeah, your neighbor is quite a character up there too, right?
Yeah, you know, it takes all kinds.
So, well, I think one thing about the shelter etiquette, because there is supposed to be a shelter about every 13 miles. You can't save spots for other people, right, V?
Is that one of the rules?
I mean, it's kind of like unwritten rule, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, maybe. You know, I mean, as far as in the shelter.
I was just saying tent spots, but.
Oh, yeah, maybe. That I was thinking in the shelter. Well, you know, a shelter, you're technically not supposed to pitch a tent in the shelter. Take that how you may want to.
What do you mean by that?
Literally pitching a literal tent, you know.
By the way, we have Ryan King signing in from Maine, listening. You guys know Ryan?
No. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. How's it going?
What's up, dude?
Just saying hi. Cool. He's up in Maine. It's a cool place compared to Ohio. I mean, I love all those Ohio, but Maine's awesome, man. Wow.
Talking about.
Yeah, you know, Cadillac Mountain. Nothing much to see there. You know.
Yeah.
Katahdin. It's okay.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, wilderness. Well, he fits right in line. Maybe we should have him down as a guest.
Maybe so. Yeah, if you're ever down in Columbus, Ohio, stop on by. Yeah, so it's funny because you guys are talking about hammock camping and everything. You know, I grew up very much in the mountain alpine world, you know, where hammocks don't really work. But I'll push back a little. You said it's going to be lighter than most tents, and most traditional tents, you're right. Mm-hmm. But you can get far lighter setups than hammocks. Hammocks are plush.
I know where you're going with this, but keep going.
Hammocks are plush. Hammocks aren't light. They're not the lightest weight as you can get.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. You fight for the paper clips, for the grams.
Yeah.
I'm just happy sub 30 pounds on a backpack.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm much lighter. If I'm doing a through hike, like so back in 2002 when I was on the CDT, like my base weight from skin out was about 10 pounds before food, fuel, and water.
You're an expert.
I don't know about
a creature of comfort. I take a 1 pound chair with me. You know, everybody's like that. The luxury item is a little fold out chair from REI that weighs just less than a pound.
What was your shelter for that? Were you in a net with, you know, nothing above you?
No. So for that load, I just had a sill nylon tarp that I'd made myself. I did not have a nest underneath at all. In Colorado, mosquitoes, biting bugs weren't a big issue, but I did have a small mosquito head nest. So like just a little mosquito thing that would come over, weighs about an ounce, and then with your windbreaker top and bottoms, you can be bug proof while you sleep.
You didn't even have a bivvy.
Didn't have a
just
bivvy.
A straight, wow.
I just had a Mylar emergency blanket ground cloth when needed. But in Colorado, it's so dry, you get those afternoon thunderstorms in the summertime. That, just a little tarp to keep it off. And then, roll just like that.
Yeah.
A man can dream.
Yeah. I'd cowboy camp if I could every night. But geez,
still cowboy camping.
I'm actually
between bugs and rain, and no thanks.
We're gonna be out in Colorado. I'm gonna be out in Colorado this summer, most of the summer, kind of back and forth. So we're gonna be doing a couple of these live broadcasts from my parents' backyard in Evergreen, Colorado, and I'm getting out on the trail with the Shill Brothers Outdoors, as well as Bryce Newbold YouTube channel. We're going to be doing 4 or 5 days on the Continental Divide Colorado Trail down around Leadville.
Nice.
And so I'll go through all of my gear that I'm using on that trail, but I'm going to be doing a similar kind of setup. It's like very lightweight. You got your Melly. We're going to be passing.
Speaking of Leadville, there it is.
Look at you guys in your Melly.
Legendary Melanzana. There you go.
Walked into an REI in Columbus, Ohio, and I was a rock star. Nice Melly. Seriously, they got the people from the back, huh?
Tell Carrie here, Eric, or other viewers that aren't familiar with the Melanzanas, what that's all about.
Well, first of all,
Craig, because he doesn't have one yet.
First of all, I had really no idea that this gear existed, and our buddy Bill, who we, props to Bill, who can't join us today, who is a pal of us in the hiking crew. He showed up with this really nice, comfortable, front pocketed with a hoodie, and said this is a Melanzana, and it's from Leadville, Colorado, and they don't sell them online, and you have to go to the shop in Leadville. And he was out there for a job and went and picked it up, and he was talking about how great it was, and I guess I was kind of paying attention but not paying attention. Scott, who, knows most things about gear, was like, oh, yeah, and he was talking about it and said he had one. And then sure enough, like, I don't know, beginning of this year in January or something, it's it's just this little shop, and they have their own employees, and they sew their own goods, and they have their own little patented material. And Scott notifies us in January that they're doing a lottery because of COVID. So you just enter your email in, and you can win the lottery, and then you get this little window to get online and buy
a maximum of 2.
A maximum of 2 of these hoodies, and it's some other wares too. And they're not really expensive. I mean, it was $75, I think, for
I think even less, maybe 72.
Yeah, okay.
70, about $70.
So it's not a Patagonia or like the the big stuff, but it's still. And I tell you, I got it back, and I was making a joke about it, like watching the mail every day. And I put it on, and it's like every square inch of that thing hugs you
like
in a warm way all the time.
Yeah, and it's really cool. So it's a small company based on Leadville, Colorado, that they, like you said, they have their own people there. They make everything right there in store. They've been there for years, and you have to go there to buy it traditionally. Like they've kind of made a thing out of not marketing, not distributing. You know what I mean? And so it's become this cult classic.
Yeah.
People see it, people love it because of that reason, and it's just grown and good for them, And so they just built and built, but then they, of course, during COVID, decided to shut down so that we could get in the lottery and win some.
And I won. Yeah.
There you go.
Not everybody wins.
Do you think that online lottery is still going on?
I heard that it was, but I'm not sure when they're going to open back up. I'm going to be in Colorado next week, and so I'm going to look into it, and there's a good chance I'm going to be down in Leadville a couple of times, and hopefully they'll be open up.
I mean, 6 weeks
maybe I should sign up for that.
Yeah, or let me know. I might be able to pick you up one when I'm out there, so we'll go from there.
I mean, 6 weeks ago, my friend Lindsay won, who submitted in the lottery in February, so...
Yeah, I was going to circle back to that email you sent me about it, and I just I haven't gotten there yet.
one day. Well, I think Scott could give you and maybe more choices because there was it's limited supply. I was so afraid. I bought the thing as fast as possible. I was just texting everybody like, please confirm what you have so I can pull the trigger now before they sell out. Because as soon as they get those emails out, I'm like, we're on limited time here. We got to do it. And it's even like you can't even shut down your browser. This is it. It's like a one-shot deal. Yeah. And the website works, but it's antiquated. It's not website 3.0.
Yeah, it's website like 2004.
Yeah.
Carrie, do you have a Melly?
I don't.
We're part of the uncool club. maybe Scott will bring you a Melly back, and you can fit in. You can fit in, you know.
Might have to do that.
One up everyone.
Oh, maybe we can bring Lincoln back one too. Fitzy has a Melly that matches mine actually. Oh my God. So my son Fitz is almost 4. He'll be 4 this July when we're out in Colorado.
That's so cute.
And we're bringing his little Melly and mine together so we can match.
You get your little hats. You get your Melly hats too.
He doesn't have a Melly hat. They don't make a kid's hat. They just make the children's hoodie.
You can't just take like a clothespin and just like tighten it up on the back end.
I would have to find another one. I've got the purple
sew it around
dome thing, and then the green hoodie with Fitz there. So
now you being the Mayog person you are there, Scott, would when he grows out of that, would you convert that into mittens or something?
Well, so that will be my daughter's hoodie after he grows out of it first. But after that,
when she grows out of that hoodie,
honestly, what we'll probably do is find someone who has a kid of that age and pass it on. We'll probably find the right person because, recycling material, if we're in an apocalyptic world and the material is the key thing, sure. But it's a beautifully crafted piece of equipment that we'll probably just simply find a kid of the appropriate age and make it happen.
Hug you.
It's a warm hug.
Yeah, it's lightweight. It is really nice.
Yeah, it's a technical but really casual.
Nice.
They make a dress. So Meg has a dress that's made out of that same material too. And the hat it's amazing.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah, so it's a cool and it's funny because they don't take themselves too seriously. Like melanzana is the Italian. It's like these Italian fancy words for outdoor gear for eggplant. Because they're like, why not?
Melanzana.
Yeah, who cares? Sounds fancy, isn't it really?
We learn something new every day.
So V, I think it's probably a good switch over. We should probably talk about shuttles. The important part of shuttles when you're doing long hikes.
Well, you're talking about etiquette, right?
Well, we have a new shuttle story now too. So
well, we can segue into etiquette with a shuttle. per se. Scott and Carrie, let me tell you this story. Our most recent trip, shuttles are the local source. They're the local per se of the trail, the area, the towns. But if we can combine etiquette with the shuttles, when there's a pandemic going on and the shuttle driver pretty much lays it out like, hey, wear a mask all the time. It's required to wear a mask in my car. No problem. It kind of clues you into that they are conscientious about what's going on and not breathing other people's air and whatever, touching people. This most recent one, Eric booked the shuttle driver. And what was his name? Was his name Tim?
Yes, it was Tim.
Tim. Some who call me Tim.
and so he lays it out. Says, hey, just you got to wear a mask.
Cash only. Wear a mask in my van. And I was talking. Yeah. I was making the deal with him. Cash only.
He shows up. He shows up in his car. A little bit older gentleman, good guy. And Eric immediately, we'd already done 4 days on the trail. Eric immediately, no mask on, hand out the shake. Hey, I'm Eric. Any gear. It's that's what we do, right? And this guy, he probably jumped back at least 10 feet. I thought he was going to fall. I thought we lost our guy.
Oh, he turned around. Yeah, he turned around.
No.
Common etiquette is when it's a pandemic going on and a guy asks you, he's kind of, doesn't want germs and stuff and just wear your mask. Don't shake hands. Over. Bill, our other hiking buddy, and I we were standing back watching this unfold, and I'm just like, did he just do that? Did he just?
Oh, I did.
Did he just? Oh man, he did. This guy just jumped every which way. I was just like, oh shit, there goes our ride.
Well, the thing was, I take full responsibility for it. I'm not going to make any excuses. I was the one doing it, so he had reminded me twice, and I told those guys, I'm like, hey, have a 20 ready, and have your mask ready. So I had, a buff, and I don't know. It was just like first thing in the morning, and he pulls up. I don't know. Maybe being double vaxxed just gave me some false confidence, and he just goes, no! Just like walks away.
Did he say no?
He did. That? He really did. He goes, no, I'm sorry, man. I'm not going to touch your hand. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And then Craig and Bill were all over it, laughing.
Well, clearly, as they should have been.
So put the mask on. We've had a good laugh. And then, so that's the etiquette outside the shuttle and inside the shuttle. But there's some really interesting people driving cars along the Appalachian Trail. These people.
Everywhere? Always.
Yeah.
These especially.
That's true. Ain't that the truth?
How so?
Job.
Illuminate.
You get a mixture of shuttle drivers that are. I don't know, E. What do you think? Like, I'd say at least 75% of them are former hikers or current hikers, or they're just drawn to the trail, and
it's easy money.
There's a need for it, and so they provide the service, but they are drawn to the trail, and that's a way to kind of stay in touch with it. Like, so way to, but
you're kind of breaking up there. Hello, Craig, you're breaking up on us there. Kind of cutting out.
Technical difficulties.
Anywho.
Bark if you're in Cleveland.
You there?
Yeah, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
That's
you're
better.
Yeah, you're back to full. So you were saying that the people
there was probably a plane flying over. It's this. I don't know. There's like a bubble over GR.
Guys, he's living in Michigan. It's like this third world country with cell phone. It's hard connectivity.
Apologize for that. I need a landline.
Yeah, because people still have those.
Yeah.
In Grand Rapids, Michigan.
So I apologize. Where'd you lose me at?
You said that the drivers are usually former hikers who want to be close to the trail.
Yeah. I think a majority of them are, and then there's some that just know there's a buck to be made doing it, so
kind of like the Uber
but
driver.
They're your local, they're your local source. They're your local knowledge.
Yeah.
You got to take full advantage of that and listen to them and ask them questions, and not make comments that will possibly get you kicked out of their ride,
What aside from Eric's faux pas of offering the hand, what are some other comments that have gotten you kicked out of the back of a shuttle? I feel like you might have made a few, Craig.
I have bitten my tongue several times, knowing that if I make this comment, I might be hiking further that day. My hike is going to start at a different place than I anticipated.
So my question is, give us a comment or two that you thought about saying but didn't say.
Please, let's talk about Tim. Tim.
Oh my God!
Please, who called me?
Talk about Tim.
Tim's
Tim's chicken.
Timmy.
Chicken, no coffee.
Tim that we almost didn't get a ride with to begin with due to just a brain fart on E's part with masking and handshaking. But he's telling us they'll get to talking. These drivers, they like to talk, and they'll tell you stories. They'll tell you about themselves, what they're doing, what their hikes, local knowledge. But good old Tim, our buddy, he owned a chicken. He had a chicken coop.
One chicken?
One chicken.
He owned eight chickens.
8 chickens, singular. and he built a coop for it.
What was the chicken's
you gotta
name?
Use.
What was her name? Oh, I forget.
I have no idea.
Camilla?
It might have been Cluck You. I have no idea what the chicken's name, but he's telling us about this chicken that's just living the high life. This thing's got a coop to itself, and they feed it like good food. I don't think people eat as good as this chicken does. And he's just telling
Until
us
they
the
eat
story.
that chicken, right?
Well, exactly. He's telling us all about this chicken's life and how it finally passed away, and it took everything in me just to bite my tongue. I just wanted to ask him, well, how did it taste? And I'm just, and I'm like, I can't say it. I can't. You got to refrain because amongst ourselves, you can bust chops like that, but like for a complete stranger, you don't know how it. Well, obviously he was attached to this chicken. I'm just like, I can't say it. I don't. I'm 15, 20 miles from where I need to be. I can't get kicked out right now,
Yeah.
And I don't want to look at Eric and Bill and be like, have them MFing me saying, dude,
strike
two. You have to say now we gotta figure out how to get to where we want to be,
Yeah,
so, you just got to be mindful. You got to be mindful when in the cars
when you're going up the Blue Ridge Parkway.
In the context, yeah. It's funny you say that. You're 15, 20 miles from where you need to be. That reminds me, I may have told you guys this story before, but I was when I was living in Chile, I was traveling in Easter Island, and I took a day and I walked out to the one beach on the far west side. So there's basically like one town in Easter Island. And the main beach, which is like in legend where the kings landed, is the complete opposite side. And it was like a 13, 14-mile walk, something like that. So I just left early in the morning, walked all the way out to this beach. Gorgeous, just walking along the south coast of Easter Island, past all these moai. You can't even imagine how beautiful this was. But I get to this beach, and I was figuring, I can walk back the main road, or I could just hitchhike, and I'll probably find people out there. That was my plan. So I'm standing by this beach, and I'm just hitchhiking the first car that comes back. And this car comes up with 3 people in it, and they're 3 Italians. And I just start talking to them in Spanish, because Italian and Spanish are a lot closer. And like, the first thing they say is, where do you live? I was like, I live in Santiago, because was living in Santiago, Chile. And they're like, at least you're not a fucking American. Just as I'm getting into their car, basically, to get a hitchhike back the 10 miles down the road that I don't want to walk because I just walked 14 miles out there. And so the entire ride, which, on this non-paved 4-wheel drive road from this beach, which probably took 2 hours, I'm talking to this group of 3 Italians in Spanish, and I don't want to lie and say I'm not an American,
right?
But trying to kind of phrase things and that, I'm living in, and having
withholding of facts,
of course, and I felt really weird about it, but at the same time, I don't want to be kicked out of the car.
Ride.
This is when George Bush was in the epitome, and the world hated us for.
Just
everything, basically, I know, right?
At one time, the world
so it was a pretty just the same kind of experience where you kind of have to play the game to get where you need.
You can't
to
be
go.
a smart ass. Yeah, you can't do it.
No.
The other one.
Go ahead, E. Go ahead.
Well, I think you're probably going to go into it, but remember, so he's talking about this, his beloved chicken, and it becomes very clear that this man is very passionate about birds. He's an ornithologist.
Interesting.
And he's pointing out a couple of the birds that he has seen, and he mentions that he has not seen a lot of owls. Low owl sightings is what he said.
The owls are not what they seem.
Low owls.
Low. But he's
got a low owl count.
Like
he's got a low owl count.
Like a book that he's keeping.
I think I heard about that on the radio. If you have a low owl, take this drug.
Yeah. Beware. Yeah. He has low owl counts, and he also said, and this might say something about his character. I said, well, there must be a lot of birding groups because we were in Shenandoah National Park for this hike, and he was in nearby. What's that town? V.
Elkton,
and then he was up north. There was the other one. There's Waynesboro, Elkton, and what's the name of it? At any rate,
right at the end of the
right in the valley.
Right?
Yeah, it was really pretty. And I'm like, well, there's got to be a lot of birding groups. He goes, yeah, but it's all about the social thing. They're not out there for the birds. I'm out here for the birds. So, he's working on that low owl count. And V, do you want to take it from here? Because we get out of the van after V's bitten his tongue. He talks about asks about chicken. How does it taste? We're laughing, and then he said, "I was also going to." Because
he's talking about these stinking owls. And I'm just staring out the window, and watching trees go by, and oh, lo and behold, I see an owl in the tree. I'm like, holy shit! And it took me everything in me to be like, not say, dude, we just passed an owl. I fully anticipated. No, I did not, because we want to get on the trail. Yeah. I was fully anticipating if I said
imagine
something.
Him just slamming on the brakes in the middle of the Blue Ridge Highway. Look at that barred owl.
Tires come to a screeching halt, throw it in the line, and back up 500 feet to possibly see an owl. I was like, oh no, I can't tell.
That you really should have, because that would have really been a hoot.
Where's it at? Let's hear it.
Oh,
that was bad.
Where's the ding ding?
Oh, you missed it. He did the rim shot. Have him do it again.
It would have been a hoot.
Oh, there it is. Oh my goodness. What was there was a trifecta in there. Wasn't there a trifecta on that one? There was chicken. Maybe it was just your almost not even giving us a ride.
Oh well, no, because we talked about vaccination. He's like, nah, I'm not getting vaccinated. I'm not doing it.
So he was super concerned about it, but didn't want to.
Right.
Get
he did not. He didn't want to touch me. I told him I was double vaxxed. I told him that we were all vaxxed, and then he wanted us to wear masks, and then said he wasn't getting masks. I don't want to get into it.
Was he worried about the vaccinated people?
I don't know, Carrie. Like I said, we're trying to get from point A to point B. I already had strike one from the get, so
Oh my God.
Usually you'd go into inquiry, but I don't know, Craig. Should we? I don't know.
I guess that we consider that a superfecta then.
That's a superfecta, but I honestly think maybe we could tell one more shuttle story. I think you should tell a story about the Georgia shuttle driver.
It was just. It takes all kinds. It takes all kinds. Obviously you guys read, and you can never, ever judge a book by its cover, and just the sweetest old lady picked me up. I had we got done. We did a section. What was it, from Springer into North Carolina?
Yeah, North Carolina.
Standing Indian Mountain.
Yep.
And when we section hike, we do about either 6 or 7 days at a time, and it's 6 or 7 days. Most people, when they section, it's 3 or 4 days, maybe take a day off or have a, what do you call it? Like a half day or just do a few miles, but
a zero or a Nero, a 0 day or
yeah,
Nero day.
a schlup like me, it's 7 days on the trail. It just takes a toll on me. So I came up limp with an IT band issue, probably about day 6.5. And luckily we get down to a little parking lot in the Gap, and he's got 1 bar of reception, and he's able to get a hold of the lady that was supposed to pick us up the next day at a different location. And he calls her. She says, "Oh, sure, I'll be there. Give me about an hour or so. I can be there." And I'm like, "Oh, great," And lo and behold, here she comes, and just a little kind old lady, fragile little lady, and just so gracious that she was able to, accommodate my needs, because I wasn't walking any further. Like, my knee was done. And I'm like, all right, so I hop in the car, load up, and he was hiking on. He was going to finish the section that we were doing, and I'd pick him up. So he kind of unloaded his gear and was going to just kind of take what he needed for the rest of the day, and I'd go pick him up and load all the gear up in our car, get going. And it was probably a solid hour and a half back to where we started, where I needed to go pick up my car. And we get to talking, and she's so kind and very active in her church group. She's part of this committee. That church committee goes 4 or 5 days a week to church, and then we're down south, so maybe that's common. Maybe, well, I guess that's common everywhere, but and she's telling me how she got involved and shuttling people up, and kind of God has leaded her down this path and been so accommodating to her and pushing her the right direction. And I'm like, all right, and I'm a listener. I'll just say a couple words to continue the conversation. No, that's great. And she's telling me about her boyfriend and this and that, and how they're in a long distance relationship. And I'm thinking, all right, this is interesting. She's definitely in her 70s, but it doesn't mean that anyone in their 70s can't date, by all means, like, do your thing.
Live your own life, hike your own hike. Yeah.
Hike your own hike, and she's telling me about her boyfriend and how they're in a long distance relationship. And I'm like, oh, did you meet him through church or Tinder or what, And I forget how she met him, and then all of a sudden she's telling me how, well, he sells Bibles, I'm thinking, all right, we're down here, Bible Belt, this, that, the third. And well, technically he's a Bible salesman, and I only see him maybe once a month or once every couple months. I was like, oh, all right, so do you ever get up to New York or wherever he's from? Oh, no, I don't get up there. All right. Well, technically he's got a family, a wife and kids up in New York. I'm like, holy shit,
Technically. He just gets down.
And then her being the good Bible person she is, she's like, well, technically it's not me committing adultery. Like, no, it isn't.
Because he started it.
It's just amazing, the trail brings all kinds, and it's just like, hey, do your thing,
They're all good spirits, but you all they talk it out. You have these
and we're all flawed,
Sure.
and we're just flawed in different ways, and
but you can't judge it, you can't.
No.
Hey,
No, there's
she helped me out,
Yeah.
So, but I just, it's just too funny. You just can't tell, you have no idea. Everyone's got their story,
It's funny because in English, we don't really have.
Caught me off guard.
So in English, we don't really have the word for her, right? You have like a cheater, an adulterer. You have, but it's funny because in Chilean Spanish, they have this colloquial saying called las patas negras, which she would be patas negras, the black paws. And paws, like patas are like the paws or legs of an animal, not a person. So like even a duck or like a puma would have patas, you know what I mean? But
Zapatas.
and so like what they'll tell you is like this means this is like if someone is adultering, it's the third person, the person who's not in that relationship is las patas negras. Because allegedly when the Spaniards arrived in Latin America, they would wear big, tall black boots. And so they were the ones running away from the tent of the natives with las patas negras, and therefore the
black
third
boots.
person is the black paws or the black boots, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And it's like we don't have anything like that in English to describe that succinctly. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
The blue Bibles.
The blue balls.
We wear those Bibles. Oh,
It's just when you're stuck in a car with a complete stranger for hours, or in this case about 90 minutes. Just like you don't know.
Well,
you don't know where.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Take you.
Yeah, that or a campfire. I think it's amazing when you put a fire,
just
in a little ring. Oh yeah, I mean that's the other thing about the hiking is, it's funny because you go to some places and there's nobody builds a fire, right? It takes a little bit of work. But
there's
build
fire issues in a lot of places out west.
Yeah, I mean AT though it's still. I mean even though we were told no fires in Shenandoah, but every shelter had a very nice fire pit, and we saw traces of fire in lots of places. I don't, if you're in a stealth camp, which is not staying where you're supposed to do, kind of like off the beaten path type of thing. But yeah, the fires always bring the interesting characters out, especially on the weekend. That's when the booze is flowing. So all those weekenders talk about bringing the beers in the bag.
We wouldn't know anything about that, would we?
No.
Unless it's baby shoes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Our in-house whiskey, bourbon, or
Or
beer
baby shoes.
cans.
Or what's what's cooking fuel?
So Gary, we up at the oh man, yeah. So we were on a hike and we had whiskey for everyone, and Craig finished all of his whiskey a little bit early, but I brought some of our effectively Everclear before we dilute it. So I'm bringing some out to Colorado too as cooking fuel, because you can just light it on fire. It's 95 to 6% alcohol. It's full on camp stove fuel. And Craig over here, so he was like, "Wait, this is fuel, but I can drink it?" Because we don't adulterate it. This is the same stuff we
Scott was giving us distilling classes out in the woods.
You
right?
can drink it. It's really strong. It's literally twice as strong as most things you'd ever drink out of the bottle.
Yeah.
So be very careful.
Only twice.
Yeah, I know. So he took a big shot of it, and
Well, remember, first was, when you got things on your bag, you get your own backpack, you got your own stuff. Maybe an unwritten rule is you can't be mooching off other people, right? You have to
story time.
You have to bring your own stuff. People are very
etiquette would be don't drink the other person's cooking fuel.
Well,
but I had enough. I was comfortable with that.
Well, remember, so I'm just saying.
Even if I had to go with the cold meal, it would have been worth seeing you take a shot of it.
Most people are very generous, but I remember we all had our.
It went from a shot to just a sipper.
Well,
you guys went to bed.
I had to stay up and watch this, but no, we're sitting around the fire, and I remember we all had our allotment, and Craig finished his. He looks over at me, and Craig is usually a very polite gentleman who doesn't ask for much. He's usually self-sufficient. He just looks over at me with, kind of cross-eyed. He's like, "Give me your bourbon." Give me that. It's like, no, I'm not giving you the rest of my bourbon. We still got a night out. And that was when Scott generously said, here, use this cooking fuel.
Which is pure ethanol.
Oh, gross.
Maybe cut it. And I was like, maybe cut it with something. And he just took a shot. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
But so we were talking about being self-sufficient.
Yep, go ahead.
You know where I'm going, Craig. So we were up at Zaleski.
The same trip.
Same trip.
Next
same
day.
trip. The
Craig
next
was
night.
and Craig was
He
hungover
was
from the
super
bourbon.
hungover.
Yeah.
Was very slow. That's why he was at the back of the line. And we get into camp reasonably early. We set up. We've got a little campfire going.
I know where this is.
There's, we're sitting there. Like I think I had like made food and eaten it, and we're kind of just sitting around hanging out. And there's this guy, just a random guy who was off in the distance, like hanging out with like a kid or two, and maybe a wife
dog.
and
a
a
dog.
dog.
Yep.
And he approached our group. And Craig, I think you should finish the story.
Yeah. Well, it was early, and what was that? Was that a fall? Was that a fall hike? That was
Fall.
That was late in the
pandemic.
season.
Yeah, like
November.
And
October, November.
there was nobody. We had this whole Zaleski. It's what is it? Zaleski Backpack Trail in Zaleski
Loop,
State Forest.
South Loop, and North
Awesome,
Loop. Yep.
awesome little weekend loop for backpacking, and good campsites, good everything. And Eric and I had we hiked that during season, and it was slamming. Like there's a lot of day hikers out there. There's weekend warriors out there. It's a very nice trail. Actually, I should say it's a horrible trail. Don't anybody go to it because I'm sorry. I don't want it overcrowded. But we're out there in fall. Exactly. And it's empty. We went to this. We got to the campground or the tent spots, and it's just us. We got it all to ourselves. All to ourselves, and one guy and a dog. And like Scott was saying, up walks probably his wife and his child.
Clarification: they were day hiking. They were not camping there.
Yeah, it was like 3:00 in the afternoon.
He didn't have much gear, did he?
It was just a day pack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that
camping,
should have tipped
just
me
hiking.
on. That should have tipped me off right there. And we're sitting around, and he comes up to us, and he's like, "Hey, do any of you guys have a pencil I could use?"
Oh, what? You kind of broke
I
up
forgot
there.
mine.
A pencil?
Oh, am I breaking up again?
Yeah, a little bit. Right?
You're back. Start.
Ah.
You can deliver it again. Go back and deliver it again. You're good.
So where'd you lose me at?
He said,
He came
"Do
up
you
to
have
us and said,
Do you have a?
Sorry guys, but you by chance have a utensil I could borrow?
"Do you have a
Fork or
utensil we can
food?"
borrow?"
Yeah, and Scott, Eric, was Bill with us, or was it just Corey?
It's Corey.
I think Bill
just
was.
go ahead.
Oh, Bill was there. Yeah, Bill was
yeah.
there.
All right, and they all just kind of like, hell no.
Look over it.
We're talking about within a split second, like, no. And then I don't know what I was thinking. I'm just like, sure. I just read the room, and I was just like, they ain't giving them nothing. And, this guy just needs a sport to eat his lunch or whatever. I'm like, sure, here you go. And as soon as I said that, I'm like, what am I doing?
You just lent
Like,
the
it's
man your
pandemic going
spoon
on.
in the middle of a global pandemic.
And I give it to him. And
When
at
all
the
your
time, it
friends
was
say
just-
no.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, heart's in the right place, and I give it to him, and it's just him and his dog at this time, and he's going over. He's like, "Oh, thanks," and I'm like, yeah, no worries. And then as we're going along, we're building a little fire or whatever, and I'm kind of watching him off in the distance, like, I'm not going to get this sport back because I got to eat dinner, and then up walks a little girl, her mom. Well, it was probably his wife and daughter, and he's having his lunch, this, that, And then not paying much attention. Then all of a sudden, his wife drops off the spork, and she says, "Oh, thank you so much, but we didn't have any soap to clean it. Sorry about that." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" I was like, "Oh, thanks." And then I'm thinking about it. I'm just shocked. I'm just sitting there, and these guys are looking at me like this idiot actually lent out his spork,
we were biting our tongues.
Just during a stinking pandemic, he lends a stranger a spork, and then he doesn't even have the audacity to return it himself. He sends his wife over to return the spork uncleaned, and I'm just like,
the best part, Kerry, was he for hours V was stewing, and every hour he'd be like,
"Hold on."
Did we disinfect it with the pure grain alcohol?
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, don't cut his story. Don't cut. What they do, Kerry?
What?
He eats his lunch. They pack up, and they leave. He won't even stay in the night. I thought the guy was staying the night and forgot his utensils. Like, no,
So they
were going home. They went home. They were hikers. They went home. Like our buddy Bill that hikes with us. I watched him for weeks just whittle a couple chopsticks and use chopsticks made out of wood because
he forgot
his utensils.
Fork. Yeah.
This guy has the audacity to ask for a spork during a pandemic, use it, have his wife return it uncleaned, pack up his gear, say thanks, and go home. He went home.
There is multiple.
He didn't need to eat lunch. Right there.
There's so many levels of etiquette there on hiking etiquette of things you're not supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Ever since then, and the funny part is when we were on the AT this year, one guy with us, he lost his spork or whatever. I already told these guys the story, and I thought he was asking me like, "Hey, Craig, you got can I borrow your spork?" And I'm like, "No." Like, are you just pulling my chain right now or what? Like, no. And,
he was dead serious.
He had a second one for whatever reason, and he kept borrowing it. But every night he'd ask me like, "Hey, can I borrow your spork?" And I'm like, "Are you busting my balls right now over this? Like, no. You know my story. I'm not. No, I don't lend them out anymore. No. Yeah. Don't borrow other people's utensils.
Gross.
Just don't. Yeah.
And if you do, don't borrow them during a pandemic. And if you do borrow them, clean them. At least boil some water and disinfect them through some boiling water. Like there's options. And
if you're gonna be, and if you're going to be a good neighbor, right? If you're going to be a camping neighbor, like lend me some sugar. I'm a temporary neighbor, but don't just be a passing through and ask for those things.
For sure.
You went home.
Wheels within wheels. Yeah.
Home. You're going to be in your house with all your utensils.
Oh man.
All right.
About 3 hours later, I realized I had camp soap in my cook kit. I should have just told her, "Well, here's some soap. Go clean it."
I think I did offer you to dip it in camping fuel, but was that before or after?
I think Craig had a few hours of trying to negotiate in his mind of like what happened. He had to decompress.
All right, guys. So unfortunately, we've kind of reached the end of our time here.
Wow.
It's been a pleasant hour and a half. It's kind of flown.
It's been a great happy hour with you guys.
It has been fantastic. Craig, thanks for joining us. Eric, you as well.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Scott and Carrie here on Endeavor BS, where the BS stands for Brewing and Spirits. Nothing else.
Happy trails.
Follow us, join us.
Yep.
Hit that bell. Good times. Happy trails. Get a little trail magic in. Good times. See you guys next week.